Hi guys, you know the drill. Today, in honor of the Suicide Squad being released, I will be reviewing every DCEU movie. But first, my name is Tyler, and I love film. Okay, the first movie I'm going to review is Zack Snyder's Man of Steel. I have a complicated history with this movie. I used to not like it at all, but that's before I knew a lot more about film and had an open mind and was willing to understand this film. Many people complain that this film is bad because it's not the proper interpretation of Superman. It's supposed to be a deconstruction of Superman, and I love character studies, as you know. And I think it is a good character study of Superman. It puts him in the modern age very well. And I love the picture of him in handcuffs, because he's allowing the humans to put him in chains. And that represents that he's a god, choosing to live among men. And Zack Snyder's a thematic director, and frankly, my favorite director. And I love thematic storytelling. And this film, as well as all of his other films in DCEU, are very thematically heavy. So many people do not get it or are not willing to pay attention. But Man of Steel is a good film. It has a lot of spectacle, but it's so sincere and full of heart. It's a respectful deconstruction of Superman and shows what Superman must do to become the Man of Steel, to become the symbol he is. He doesn't just start out as a symbol. He has to struggle. He has to snap a few necks. Overall, I give this film an 8.9 out of 10. I could probably make a whole video on this movie. First, I'm going to get my controversial opinion out of the way. I think this film is great. I not only think this film is great, but I think it is the second best film in the DCEU. Out of every superhero movie ever made, I think there are very few that are actually what would be called cinema, like Scorsese says. I think many films in the DCEU, well, mostly Suicide Squad, represent what people like him think of superhero films. And no matter if you don't like this film or not, this film is undeniably great and it is undeniably cinema. Many people rate this film low because of Batman and Superman and how they're characterized in this movie. But I think that works in their favor. People get mad because they're fanboys, because they want to see a different version of these characters. But the truth is, that's not what they got, and that's not what they're ever going to get. This is Snyder's version, and Snyder's versions of these characters work very well. I was a whiny little fanboy too. I hated this movie, but there is nothing to hate, really. There's nothing that truly doesn't work about this film. The problem many people have with Superman is that he killed Zod in the last movie. He killed Zod in the last movie, which is part of his journey. That's part of his journey to becoming Superman, to getting used to his powers, to knowing the power that he has in his hands. And Batman killing in this movie works until after the Martha scene. And the Martha scene works in this movie. Batman in this film is supposed to represent a broken, battered hero who has taken enough, who has had his Robin stripped away from him, who now kills because he's crossed that line. It's not supposed to be the Batman you know. They're not supposed to be the characters you know, because that would get boring. I respect Snyder for trying to do something different. Batman's arc in this film is not killing, is not becoming the criminal that he has now let himself become. The fact that Superman says his mom's name is Martha reflects on Batman. Batman is about to kill a little boy with a mother named Martha, a similar name to his, and a similar situation. Batman has let himself become the monster, and him throwing the spear. This entire movie was about his stupid acts of vengeance, just trying to kill Superman because he doesn't understand. But that all gets ruined once he kills everybody in the warehouse, no matter how dope that warehouse scene is. Like I said, Zack Snyder films are very thematic, and this film is thematic. This film explores the idea of how would man react to gods, to people like Superman, and how would people like Bruce Wayne react to Clark Kent and Superman. It is evident that Zack Snyder sees these characters as gods and wants to explore their godly manner and what happens when they come down from Mount Olympus. Throughout his DC trilogy, these ideas are explored time and time again, and this film represents the best of the idea and its answers and the worst of it. There are still a few fatal flaws to this movie, but not as many people would think. This film is truly great. It is cinema, and it is an overlooked masterpiece. The cinematography in this film is great. It is the best cinematography in any Marvel or DC superhero flick I have ever seen. Zack Snyder's direction is grand, and the battle is fun. It's something that we wanted to see. It is what we wanted to see, even if we had to go through 2.5 hours of things that many people didn't even understand while watching. I am, of course, talking about the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs. Superman, even though the theatrical cut isn't even as bad, but the Ultimate Edition is 20 points better. This film is great. I really liked the introduction of Wonder Woman into it, and the Doomsday battle was fun. Superman's sacrifice represents many of the themes. It reflects on the last movie. Instead of Superman snapping necks, he's stabbing himself in the heart. If you hate this film, please give it another chance. This film is truly great, no matter what you think. I give this film a 9.5 out of 10. Let's keep this one short. Suicide Squad is not a good movie. Frankly, it's a bad one. This could have been one of the best superhero flicks ever made, but it was sabotaged from David Ayer by WB. And that is just depressing. There's truly nothing redeeming about this movie. I mean, you don't even want to look at the villain. The plot is bonkers. There is only one meaningful character arc, and overall this film is just bland. Sadly, I have to give this film a 4.8 out of 10. The next film I am going to talk about is Wonder Woman. So, this film is just truly solid. It's a great origin story for Wonder Woman and establishes her fantastically. This film is compelling. It makes you compelled to watch, to see Diana's adventure unfold. Even though the villains are weak, that is the worst part of the movie. It has such a solid character arc, emotional depth, and you really build a connection to Diana and the characters in this film. Overall, this film is a joy, and nothing I could say can do it justice. I give this film a 9.3 out of 10. I don't want to say what many others have said before me about this film, but it is not great. It does not try to be anything truly thought-provoking and try to be a standout film. And it's appalling that this was just made worse in every way from the Snyder Cut. But this film did used to be my favorite one in the DCEU. I just liked the movie, even though I knew it was bad and disappointing for the characters of the Justice League. I give this film a 5.7. When this movie came out, I did not jump on the hype train. I mean, it looks cool, but it couldn't have been that good. And it was definitely better and worse than I was expecting. This film does have some massive problems, though, but was borderline good and a good sign for the DCEU and really provided hope. 1, this film has pacing issues, tonal issues, and character development that is just enough and nothing more. But this film was another good step for the DCEU and provided a fun, interestingly directed film. I give this a 7.5 out of 10. When this film first came out, I was not freaking out about it like everybody else was, but hell, I can see why they were. This film is what the superhero genre and the DCEU has been missing. It is fun, lighthearted, emotionally resonant, funny, and like I said, it's just a fun movie. It reminds me of a simpler time of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, when superhero movies were allowed to be movies. Though it has some flaws and completely copies the New 52 origin, this film is great. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. I liked Birds of Prey when it first came out, and of course, I still like it. But now I realize there are a few underlining issues with the film, including tonal issues, underbaked characters, and plot holes. But this film was the first sign that DC was finding its footing and taking a step in a different direction, making unique and risky superhero films like this one. And I gotta respect it for that. I give this film an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, I already made a very long video reviewing this movie and why I think it's great. But you guys can read what I think about it as a summary and things that I didn't get to say in that video. Overall, since this is one of my favorite films, I give this a 10 out of 10. This one is going to take a lot of explaining. But first, I gotta get this out of the way. I loved Wonder Woman 1984. The funny part is, I didn't expect to. I didn't even want to, but I did. I watched this movie twice. I kept eyeing the reviews and was heartbroken when it failed on Rotten Tomatoes, and watched before my eyes everybody scold this movie. When I first watched it, I was complaining about the problems because the flow of the movie was so weird. The structure was so weird. The pacing was god-awful. The effects in certain scenes were horrible. The MacGuffin quest, the villain, Steve, the Wishing Stone, Pedro Pascal. It all felt weird. And yeah, this movie is flawed. It has plenty of problems. But it's a miracle that this movie existed. It made my Christmas weekend, and I have good memories with this film. I kept watching this film, analyzing it, and I realized something. No matter how many flaws the film came with, especially the beginning training scene, no matter all of the flaws, this film got made the way Patty Jenkins wanted it to be made. This is her film, flawed or not. This is the film she wanted to make. This is a passionate film with so much heart in front of and behind a camera that we are missing nowadays. And it's campy, of course, but it's reminiscent of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. No matter the flaws, no matter the corny effects and dialogue, that was the point of this movie. To be melodramatic, to be campy, to be an 80s fun fest. Wait, did I just say fun fest? That's the gayest thing I've ever said in my life. This film had so much heart behind it that it doesn't even matter. That the point was that it was meant to be melodramatic, and I love it for that. The themes of this movie strike so hard. The themes, that was good, especially at the ending. Once she had to let go of Steve, the movie felt like the Wonder Woman movie I was expecting and wanted to get. And that was good and bad. I give Wonder Woman 84 a 7.9 out of 10. None of the DCEU films are perfect, and we've come on such a ride with them. From it being controversial to it having to be undeniably bad, now it's starting to rise again. There's an actual debate on if these movies are good or bad, and much of the time now, they're good. They're great. And with the early reviews of the Suicide Squad being positive, I can't wait to watch more.